President William Ruto has urged African governments to increase their investments in green opportunities to unlock the continent's potential. The president called for investments in renewable energy, green industrialization, climate-smart agriculture, and nature conservation. According to the head of state, when he officially opened the Africa Climate Summit today at Kenyatta International Convention Center, this would accelerate global decarbonization, fuel sustainable development, drive economic growth, and create millions of jobs. Here are the details.
More than a dozen African leaders and some of the world's fiercest climate change campaigners are meeting in Kenya for the maiden edition of the Africa Climate Summit. The event, which is being held from Monday to Wednesday, has been convened to address Africa's increasing exposure to climate change and its associated cost on the continent.
I therefore call upon all of us here to use the next 3 days to explore options as to how we can optimize Africa's abundant human and natural resources to leapfrog towards a low-carbon economy while opening new opportunities for climate finance, trade, investment, innovation, resilience, and green jobs.
The climate conversation began 31 years ago in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro. But this is the first African summit 31 years later. When my colleagues agreed in the Africa Union, that is, agreed to my offer to host this climate summit, it was clear to me that this inaugural summit is going to be the stepping stone to the ultimate resolution of this challenge. The reason why possibly we haven't made much progress is because Africa had not consolidated and assembled its ideas and brought them to the table.
The summit's declared goal is to influence climate commitments, pledges and outcomes, including the Nairobi Declaration, a blueprint of Africa's green energy transition.
As representatives of the African Youth Climate Assembly, to underscore the urgency of addressing climate change and its profound impact on Africa's youth, our declaration, the African Youth Climate Declaration, reflects our commitment to harness the power of our youth to drive meaningful change.
We must also be cognizant of the climate change nexus with migration and the need to climate-proof our infrastructure. That is why we are persuaded that if we do not develop adequate response measures to deal with the climate change crisis, it will crush us all together. Let us therefore step up and lead the world to find solutions for climate change by listening to all voices at this climate summit, including from youth, indigenous communities, and civil society from Africa and beyond.
Happening in parallel to Africa Climate Summit, the Africa Climate Week 2023 welcomes policymakers, practitioners, business and civil society representatives from 4th to 8th of September in Nairobi. As the world grapples with the urgent challenges posed by climate change, Africa Climate Week will address the pressing crisis through cooperation and forward-thinking initiatives to drive transformative change. According to the Science Direct database, since the beginning of 2022, at least 4,000 people have been killed and 19 million affected by the extreme weather events in Africa. A 2022 UN report also estimated that Africa loses between 7 to 15 billion US dollars annually because of climate change. To help mitigate the effects of climate change, African countries need to raise an average of 124 billion US dollars annually. But so far, it has received only a fraction of that sum, which is 28 billion US dollars. The low-level funding has raised concerns and placed immense pressure on the summit to be a turning point in addressing climate change funding. Hilary Kabila, GBS News.